and welcome back to the Endgame. This is the 12th part of the series, and this is actually my second attempt at doing this introduction, because I had made the mistake of going live wirelessly with my laptop, probably the first time I've ever gone live wirelessly, except for the very early days of my live streaming career. And it turns out that if I do that, it slows down the connection of my Switch, probably because both my laptop and my Switch are fighting over whatever available Wi-Fi is in my room right now. I'm guessing that's how it works. I don't know. I've just never done it before. I've never pulled so heavily on my Wi-Fi connection with my streaming device and then expected to use, say, a Nintendo Switch over Wi-Fi at the same time. It just so happens that it doesn't really work very well. I wasn't connecting properly here, and it was problematic. So this room here, interestingly, I joined it before. There were 3 people and they seemed ready to go. But since I joined and left, now there's 2 people and they're not in a quest, so I don't know what's happened here. Apparently me not staying in the room has caused it to collapse for some reason. I have got no idea why. It was only a few minutes ago, like 2 minutes ago. You may be able to tell that we are continuing on immediately from the last livestream. Just a short recap for those of you who are not aware. I'm not going to be able to record anything other than Generations Ultimate until around late February. The reason being that my desktop computer is out of action, and consequently I can only record games that are on console. And in the case of Monster Hunter, that is Generations Ultimate. I would have been able to do 3 Ultimate perhaps, but of course the Wii U servers were shut down somewhat recently, so that's not happening. I have been greeted by Mr. Avematic. Avematic? I don't know. I'm not too worried about the pronunciation of his name. I will give him a hi in return, if anything, just to make it very clear that I'm active, I'm playing, and that I'm ready to hunt. When I discuss people, well, there's no real danger of me being left behind when there's only 2 of us in the room, but generally speaking, when people communicate with you, an easy way of showing that you're actually here and participating in the room is to respond to people when they greet you, so yeah, but not really applicable to this situation. I could ignore him for the next 5 minutes and I don't think it would be a problem. Let me just get my chat organized for the live stream. Yeah, hello AJ, I saw that you didn't tune in last time, or rather I just realized that you hadn't, so therefore maybe you weren't aware of what had happened. But yeah, my computer fell off a table, it was really not great. So, I'm trying not to think about it too much, it's just the timing is so poor that I'm going to be stuck with a broken computer for a little while. At least I've got a reasonably functioning laptop. It's a gaming laptop, just an entry-level gaming laptop, which works much better for my purposes than, I don't know, a productivity-focused laptop, because this thing has an actual Ethernet port on it, so I can use that for live streaming, which is brilliant. I was just talking about how I had accidentally forgotten to connect my Ethernet cable, and it resulted in me barely being able to connect online on my Switch here, so thank God I've got that option, otherwise I'd have to go out and get an adapter of some kind. Savage Devil Joe. Obviously Thunder would be the choice. Savage Devil Joe being one of the more Thunder weak monsters of the series. How about Longsword? I didn't really end up using Longsword in the previous recording, so in the interest of entertaining those who have already seen that live stream, I will use the Devil Slicer. True Devil Slicer. Not exactly my favorite weapon, because of course the Devil Slicer exists in first generation as well, so it feels like a little bit of a monotonous enterprise to be using the same frickin' thunder weapon for so many generations of Monster Hunter, but at least here it's actually a longsword, not a longsword. Not a great sword that looks like a longsword. There you go, had to get my head around that. The host is asking if we want to depart with 3 people. I really don't mind. Well, let's just see what we're dealing with. We've got a hunting horn person who's using a hunting horn I'm not familiar with at all. Okay, we just got a 4th person, so that worked out well. Authority Trumpeter. I really don't know. It looks interesting. It reminds me of a one of the default weapon types. You know, like the non-elemental, raw-focused default weapons that you get just coming into G-Rank. I forget what they're called now, but it's got that sort of coloration. Alright. And then Arya's using one of the rapid bows that is considered among the best in the game. I don't actually use it. It's not that I'm averse to the idea of using it, I just haven't gotten around to forging it. I don't know what my raw rapid bow would be in this game. I probably don't have one, you know. There's something about raw bows. I've never found them to be very satisfying to use. The bow weapon type really lends itself to applying element, at least for me. Maybe it has to do with the fact that when I learned how to use the bow, well, not even learned how to use it, but rather became very attached to the bow and how it worked. I was using elemental arrows, and then I think at one point I tried just going raw bow, and it didn't feel like anything. Just didn't feel impactful when my arrows were making contact with the monster. Okay, just trying to remember where he starts. I think he starts in the main area just out from the camp, but I'm not going to waste a Farcaster for that. You've been playing DOS, and apparently Longsword sucks in that game. I can't say I've used it. It would make sense to play Longsword in the game that it first appeared in, as a proper weapon type, but I haven't yet been tempted. I have played Bow, though. Bow feels normal, feels the same as, say, Freedom 2. That's a shame to hear that it's not very good. Usually, the first appearance of a weapon type will be too strong compared with other weapon types. As Capcom are trying to work out the correct balance, I think they err on the side of having it be stronger rather than weaker. Like, for example, the Hunting Horn, as I recall, is pretty strong in Monster Hunter DOS. But obviously they didn't manage to do it that way for Longsword. Yeah, you're right. There is a bug with rapid shots in this game. And I think that's probably why I don't use rapid very much. If I'm wanting the effects of rapid, which is to say a focused shot on one part of the monster, which ideally is a weak point, I will instead go for heavy shot. Oh, I've got to sleep here. Oh wow, I don't actually have bombs on hand. That's rare. A rather classic... Look, I'm gonna I'm sorry, actually. I would have rather have you do the detonation. You know what? I wasn't really convinced that he'd be able to get the wake-up hit without detonating the bombs first, so I thought it would be better for me to just detonate the bombs, but I ended up sending him flying. I'm sure he didn't appreciate that. This person's doing a very good job of hitting me with these arrows. I'm not sure about hitting the monster. Well, perhaps I'm the target today. I don't know. But yeah, I've been aware for some time that Rapid just does not do the damage that it's meant to in this game. And I do question whether or not, you know, things like the Charge Blade actually do the damage they're meant to either. Like, is it a bug or is it a feature? I really can't tell anymore with Capcom. Or at least by this point I wasn't able to tell. I was complaining in the last recording about my sticky buttons on this controller. Allow me to complain once again. My A button actually got stuck down for a few seconds. Just a few moments ago, and that was not ideal. That was far from conducive to effective gameplay in Monster Hunter. Oh. Keep away from that head. We've got Unhinged Spirit. I try to only use it when I reach yellow, but if I... And I think this... No, I must have used the longsword in the previous livestream, because I remember this. I was performing so poorly that I decided to use it while I was in white. And that would be the exception to the rule that I just mentioned. It's if I'm playing so abysmally that I just want to get Unhinged Spirit to feel like I can actually deal damage. And I feel like that happened in the previous recording. Like, for example, at the moment, I'm struggling to find the opportunity to actually get a Spirit combo out. So that would be a good situation for me to use Unhinged Spirit. Should be able to break out just fine. In my opinion, that's the best case scenario. That's an opportunity where I've got lots of health and can give the team the chance to hit the monster a whole lot. It's almost like a trap where you sacrifice your own health as a member of the team. Uh-oh. Arya's got one of those auto shouts for a hunter art. It was, "Let my aim be true," which is lovely if you're role-playing, but anyway. I won't comment on that too much. But let me just tell you that I've seen some really cringe-worthy auto shouts in this game. The one that I'll never forget was the Naruto-themed one that I came across. It was just a guy who was, you know, we're talking just like, Rasengan, that sort of business, but as his auto shouts. It was pretty funny. I mean, I don't like to make light of people necessarily, like, you know, make fun of them, but I do recall doing that on that occasion. It's hard not to, you know, it's hard not to. So yeah, on the subject of struggling to actually get my spirit gauge up, case in point, haven't even reached white yet. I'd like you to just remain in one place if you wouldn't mind, Deviljay. I just wonder what I spilt on my controller because it's really bad. It's worse than it was before. Ooh. Imagine pressing a button, but you know that your finger is on the button, right? But the sensation is not clear enough for you to be certain you've actually pressed the button. That's how sticky it is. It's not good. Good flinch. I'll try to use Critical Juncture. I should be able to find an opportunity to do that. It goes against my instincts to actually intentionally take a hit. Probably not the best attack to do that with because I wasn't close to Deviljay when it happened. Probably wasn't a good idea to do an evasion out of that. Or rather, out of the evasion, do a spirit combo because it put me off target with the monster. Finally, an opportunity to get my spirit gauge up. This is one of the least productive longsword confrontations I've had recently. Missed it. Let's just Unhinged Spirit. The time has come. Yeah, we did get asleep very quickly with that Syllabo. So it obviously is pretty effective for that. Aha! Whoops. Rolled a little too quickly there. Too quickly for me to actually point myself in the direction of the monster. I'm actually shocked that that last overhead slash made contact. Yeah, I love the DualShock 3 controller. It's just unfortunate that my original genuine DualShock 3 controllers have just bit the dust now. Not working anymore, and if I have a non-genuine one, it just wasn't really working with my DualShock 3 controller setup. It really needed genuine controllers to work properly. It was basically done, so how it was, I can't remember what it was called, but how it worked was, it was a driver that you would install, and it would allow a DualShock 3 controller to be recognized as an Xbox 360 controller natively through Windows 10. And it didn't work with non-genuine DualShock controllers, only with actual ones. Oh. Definitely time to sharpen up. I have been continuing to use blue for way too long. I'm starting to wonder if I should just give in and use my DualShock 4 controller with the Switch right now. I might set that up in just a moment. That hardware that I was mentioning, the Mayflash Magic NS for the Nintendo Switch, it's so versatile that I will be able to just go and connect that controller and it'll just start working. I don't know if I would have to disconnect this one, maybe it would end up coming up as player 2 or something if I did that, but it's very, very simple to use and very well designed. So, in other words, I'd be able to take about 60 seconds away from the live stream to go and connect a different controller and it would be not an issue. But I think I need to do this because due to my own foolishness in spilling things on this controller, it's nearly unusable now. Can't believe it. Can't fucking believe it. I'm sure I'll be able to get another one. Ironically, I got this Wii U Pro controller secondhand. And it was pretty expensive then. It was like 60 Australian dollars, it was unbelievable. For a second-hand controller, and this was in 2017 when I got that. Kind of unbelievable. So I'm a little concerned that maybe they're collectible now, I don't know. I will do some investigation. Basically, I wouldn't need this controller again until I want to play the Zelda remasters, for example, on Wii U. That's the only situation where I would want to use them. Or use it. It's worth mentioning that you can use Critical Juncture on things like Tremor. Critical Juncture is not going to be affected by the amount of damage that you receive from the attack that you are parrying. Or I guess, parry is not the word that I'm looking for. Counter-attacking. Basically, it just needs to proc. That's the important thing. It's not like, for example, you know, the Greatsword, Hunter Arm, that can be used in that way. That one actually causes you to take damage when you get hit. Well, no, that's still not proportional to the amount of damage you take. I guess I'm thinking of Enraged Guard. But that's not really a counterattack. I'm happy to report it's extremely hot in my room, my god. I'm gonna have to put the air conditioning on. After this particular hunt, I'm going to have to change controllers and turn on my air conditioning because this has not been an easy hunt. I've been sitting here basically accumulating sweat on my body whilst pressing buttons on a controller that don't feel like they're actually being pressed at all. And somehow I managed to do a hunt. I'm not going to say that I performed very well. I think I'd be doing very well to perform decently under those circumstances, but yeah, I wouldn't say that's what happened. But that's alright. That's alright. Now, apparently through Homebrew you can use a PlayStation 3 controller on a Wii U. That's pretty impressive. Hey Tal, good to see you. I don't see much of you anymore, but it's good to see you when you do take the time to show up. Yeah, weirdly, my touchpad on my DualShock 4 controller is not really working on PC. I use DS4 Windows, and weirdly, it used to work and now it's just not. I think it was a result of a Windows update. It does happen, you know. I mean, things that rely on a specific state that Windows is in and then you update and then things break. I really hate that. I get it, security updates, right? But why does a security update have to affect how DS4 Windows works with my DualShock 4 controller? Like, why? The answer is that it's not just security updates. They're always fucking around with little things in the back end. Things that, quite frankly, probably don't need to be touched. But they do it anyway just to mess with me. Okay, I'll be back in just a moment. Hopefully I'll be able to get my controller connected up without issue, and before long I will no longer be sitting here sweating like a dog. I'll be back in just a moment. Alright, we are working. We are working. DualShock 4. Now, while I was connecting this, I had a rather nasty flashback to the days when I used to use a DualShock 4 controller while playing this game. I'm not going to do this monster again. I had a nasty flashback to the old days when I used a DualShock 4 controller on the Switch, and it was that periodically the wireless functionality will just cut out. And then the only way for me to restore connectivity is to get up off my chair and go and connect it physically into the Switch again. And then, like, once I disconnect it and then wirelessly pair, it'll be fine. But once it loses its wireless connectivity, I can't repair it. It just... Now, that could have been an issue with my previous controller. It might not be all DualShock 4 controllers. I've got no idea. I certainly don't trust Sony's manufacturing standards enough to be convinced that it's just an issue with the Magic NS, because I think that Magic NS, like, whoever was involved in the production of that thing really should be, I don't know, given the responsibility of manufacturing Sony stuff, because it actually works, you see. EX Elderfrost, let's do it. The hunt is over, and it looks like the hub's gone. Okay. They only needed to do one. Understood. Ice Cream. We play with someone called Ice Cream in Hunsterverse. Could be the same guy. It is technically possible. Kevin and Ice Cream. Oh, I know what you're posting on the board, Kevin. It's Lao Shan Lung, isn't it? It's not. No, you are HR12. I suppose if you were HR11, that would be Lao Shan Lung. Well, I don't mind doing your urgent quest. It's an auspicious occasion. You'll only ever do one urgent quest that's Adulkar. Well, I suppose in the case of doing an urgent quest, you're only going to do it once, so... You can obviously do it again later, but it's not going to be an urgent at that point. This guy's getting 2 Hunterang 999s to help him with his urgent quest into the endgame of G rank. What would be a fun choice for Atulkar? I don't think I've done Atulkar on camera in well over a year. Let's do Lance. I think he's weak to thunder, isn't he? As I recall, he is. Alright, I'll take your guild gun. Here, have a card, 3. Very cute. He says sarcastically. That's what I was going to do. I was going to make sure that it's actually thunder. I'm pretty sure it is. I'd be absolutely shocked if it weren't. Yeah, thunder is the primary weakness. I don't want your cards. I want the card from the person who is obviously a girl, because she's using 3. I'm thoroughly convinced. Oh. What is on your head? Is that a chef's hat? Seems to be a chef's hat. Are you using the knife and fork dual blades? You have to be using those. It's a requirement, really. Yeah, I didn't think that there was any sort of mouth hitbox, or mouth hit zone, rather, for Lao Shanlong in games prior to this one. Outside of the mouth hitbox, why do I keep saying hitbox instead of hit zone? Outside of the mouth hit zone, I don't know of any other ones that are new to Lao Shanlong in this game. And that's how you know we're doing an urgent quest. It's because he gets a little introduction. Short and sweet. I actually have recorded on my channel the first time I fought this monster. And I was just laughing at how stupid it was. That was actually my first impression of this monster. I think someone had told me that it was kind of cool or an interesting fight. I was just laughing my ass off at how ridiculous it was. And not in a good way, I thought it was a really stupid fight. Just the idea, I thought he was really interesting at first. I thought, oh, this is great, we've got, you know, I guess an insect-type monster. Pretty much as a final boss, I was really excited to see what he would do, and then he turns into a giant robot. Well, why? Why do you do this thing? With the passage of time, I don't think it's stupid anymore, but I guess it defied my expectations in a bad way. I thought it was absurd. But I would say that Atulkar is both a good and bad fight. In some ways he's interesting. In others, I don't know. I suppose what I can say is that even now I'm not really sure how I feel about this monster. I have mixed feelings. But yeah, I think the first time I fought this monster would have been in Doom Link's Random Hunts back in 2018 at some point. That was on a different channel. Because I am using a lance, I do expect to be flinched a little bit as we progress through the fight. It's probably, yeah, I don't know if it's better to break the debris there, honestly. Because I think that debris will just come back again after we break this, so it's probably better to just focus on this weak point and then come back to that debris later. I could be wrong, but I'm quite sure that would reappear later on. Oh, gotta get around. And this is where I get flinched, I think. Never mind, everyone's focusing on mining. So be it. I would assume that the thunder weakness for these budding flowers, whatever you want to call them, is quite high, so I've definitely got the right weapon for it. My thunder damage is 66. Very high. Very high. Interestingly, Nikakos I also have mixed feelings about. Nikakos is not that fun of a fight. I think as a monster, I prefer him. I would prefer Adalkar if he didn't turn into a mecha versus Nikakos, but given that this thing is a weird mecha, like a children's toy, because this is a children's toy monster, I think I prefer Nikakos in every way, both the combat and also the concept. But for everything that's not related to this monster turning into a mecha, I think they did a good job of incorporating the fact that he's an insect, I guess. He's got these golden threads, and he can pull the debris that's around and just slam it into you. I think that's really well done. And so I understand that flowing from that you would then, you know, have him assemble basically a suit of armor out of the rubble, but for me that was a little too ambitious, conceptually. But that's just me, again, just a preference. I'm not going to pretend that it's an objective viewpoint. People probably feel different about it. Looks like we've broken the abdomen, which is pretty much essential if you want iridescent carapace. This monster does have, you know, like a... what do you call it? A mantle equivalent? But I find that the most difficult thing to get, generally, is iridescent carapace. That was quite funny. That person being launched into me, actually, flinched me quite terribly. I was knocked back. Yeah, I think Nikakos is really cool, but he's one of those monsters that is much cooler when you haven't actually fought him before. Another example of a monster like that would be, I guess, Yamatsukami. Yamatsukami's very cool in concept, but once you fight him, particularly like maybe 2 or 3 times, the novelty wears off. Ice Cream and I having to raise our shields because someone's decided to drop these bombs. I really don't think those bombs are worth it, I'm just going to tell you. I'm pretty sure that if we could all attack unreservedly, we would get a lot more done than having Ice Cream and myself just standing here shielding these bombs. What I really like about Nikakos, though, are his weapons. I love Nikakos' weapons. I also like his skeletal armor. I have used his full skeletal armor set as transmog for one of my greatsword sets. I'm a bit of a sucker for skeletal loadouts. I don't know why, but I think it's because it's so artistic. Bones are so artistic. I don't want to sound morbid, but if we look at an artist who can faithfully recreate a skeleton, it's a lot of work. Skeletons are artistic. And anything that I suppose takes its influence or inspiration from the shape of a skeleton usually will automatically be pretty artistic. Is that going to hit me? It sure is. I'm just trying to sharpen. Oh, we've already reached the final stage. Now, the final stage is not easy. And it's because of that big wheel on his back. He tosses that thing around without hesitation. And it hurts when it hits you. Yeah, and that's the thing. I also really like the fact that you've got the 2 different types of Nikakos weapon. You've got the ones that are blue and the ones that are more skeletal. Of course, the skeletal ones are usually more bludgeoner focused, in the sense that you're not really going to get much use out of them unless you've got bludgeoner equipped. typically green sharpness. Maybe with sharpness +2 you can get up to a little bit of blue, but it's definitely low sharpness. And I use the greatsword with bludgeoner. Brilliant. Just, oh, love that shit. A bludgeoner greatsword loadout with the Nakako skeletal greatsword. And I don't know if there's a blue version of it, but the sort of, I guess what you would call the standard Nakako's greatsword. Really cool. I love that thing. In fact, next Dragon Week monster we encounter, I'll use that. Just to demonstrate. I think you mentioned the gun lance. Possibly that's another thing that I could use with bludgeoner. I think for gun lance I use my lance bludgeoner loadout. I don't have like a separate gun lance focused one. Or perhaps I do. No, I do. Excuse me. I do have a bludgeoner gun lance loadout. And I suppose what distinguishes a lance from a gun lance loadout in this case would be artillery skills. And sharpness skills, really. Sharpness skills are absolutely essential to a gun lance in a way that it's not essential to a lance. Unless, of course, you don't shoot the gun lance. In which case you can probably also forego artillery skills. But there you go. I also really like the environmental effects of his arena. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. Look, I'm just trying to one-hand carve and it's just not working at all. I've never had such a catastrophic attempt at one-hand carving in my life. I'm not even going to describe how that went so wrong. There's also a Dragon Eater over there, by the way. People don't often use it in this fight. It almost never gets used. Kevin's actually demonstrating it as if he were listening to the live stream and were my perfect accompaniment. Showcasing precisely what it is I'm describing. But yeah, it almost never gets used. I think most people don't know it's even there. I don't use it because I don't really care about it. I don't know how much difference it's going to make. And I think in the past I might have tried to get people over to it, but because people didn't know it was there, I was just pinging inanely and was thoroughly ignored, so I would assume it's because it's a new arena that's unique to this monster, so maybe people just weren't able to adapt to their new surroundings. They just don't know that there's a Dragon Eater there. Apparently it's a chore to drag him there. I don't know if it's a chore. Is it a chore for the reason that I explained, that people don't know to bring him there, or would it be difficult regardless? Like, even if you had 4 people standing in front of it, would it still be difficult? I'm not too sure. No, I didn't come across that person who kicked people who were Asian. Could you imagine being so tone deaf that you come into a game, and I'll be honest, I haven't seen many Chinese players since. Maybe the game's finally banned in Japan. Not Japan, in China. Certainly not banned in Japan, could you imagine? Maybe the game's finally banned in China. I think I said Japan because it sort of rhymes with banned. Banned in Japan. But, no, I didn't come across that person. But back in those days, probably 95% of the players that you would encounter were Chinese and spoke Chinese, and this person was actually kicking people from their room if they were communicating in a language other than English. It just wasn't sustainable. And obviously very stupid. No Asians. I didn't encounter them again. I think... I can't remember the person's name anymore, but it was funny. Yeah, there should be a Twitch highlight of it somewhere on the channel. It was pretty unreal, though. That is not a chef's hat. What is that, then? It reminds me of a medieval headwear. I can't remember what it's called now. It's where you How did it work? Like, you had a scarf wrapped around your head and then you rolled it up around your head. It looked a little bit like a turban. I can't remember what it's called now. But it was quite popular in the 1400s, I think. Usually had a bit hanging down from the side. Can't believe I've forgotten what it's called, but that's alright. You think it's the female variant of the cat chef outfit? Maybe. Looks more like a maid than a cat chef. Yeah, no, it is. Patissier. Layla was the person's name. Apparently it was 3 years ago now. Well, there you go. No Asians. Seems that Tal has his own clip of it. What is the objective of this room? Is it a turns room? Oh, it's Rekrutierung! So in other words, we're recruiting people that are German. Germans only. Alatrion and Alak. This is the event quest. Alice says, mixed set reminds me of 3 Ultimate. Do you mean just mixed sets in general, or...? You make it sound as if mixed sets are like a novelty in this game. It's pretty standard stuff. I can see you don't have a mixed set, but... Again, it's to be expected. I don't know if we really want to do the event quest of Alatrion, but that seems to be what's on the board. I'd beg to differ, Epidemic. I don't find Alatrion fun in this game. I think the last time he was fun was in 3rd gen. He just doesn't... He doesn't blend very well into the Ingle Isle, and he's also in the air way too much. Despite the fact that you can't use a Dragonator to pull him down, or rather, a Ballista Binder, not a Dragonator. Getting my words mixed up today. But, yeah, seriously. It just doesn't feel like a proper Alatrion experience in this game. I don't know if that's me being a purist because I'm used to fighting him in the Sacred Lands, or if that's actually something measurable and tangible that I can explain more clearly if I were to give it time. I'll use something ranged. I'm in that awkward moment where everything that I look at as an option is unappealing because the monster itself is unappealing. But I can't really get around the fact that that's what we're fighting. I mean, I could leave the room, but no, I think it might be worth seeing some Alatrion. So what we'll do is we'll equip the Diablo's bow. The hoi! I know that sounds slightly exaggerated or perhaps even inaccurate, but no, that's how you pronounce this. Anyone who says otherwise is just wrong. It's hoi! Hoi! I've said it in the past and I'll say it again, that's how you pronounce it. I don't see how else you'd be able to pronounce it without being wrong. It's hoi! Oh yeah, and Alatrion can't get his horn stuck in anything, but that doesn't really interrupt my gameplay. Especially coming from Monster Hunter Tri, where people thought that you wouldn't get Sky Piercers if you did that. Which I'm pretty sure was complete bullshit. But that's what everyone thought, and I certainly thought that. I used to castigate people who would use the wars, like, don't you know? Haven't you heard? But looking back, there's just no logic to it. But I guess I just didn't underestimate Capcom. Capcom would troll people in that way. Oh, you're using the wall, are you? Well, take this. Your chance to get Sky Piercers has been cut in half. I'm pretty sure I can only use exhaust coatings on this, so... Don't freak out when I don't use coatings, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, Kevin's already dead. This is a really good start to the Event Elatrion hunt. I wasn't really expecting to succeed, I'll be honest with you, not with this team. Just because Alice and I are here doesn't mean that we're going to not have 3 deaths, just to be clear. I need to double check to see if I've got charge level 4 on this bow. Yeah, I've got charge level 4. The interesting thing is charge 3 is PS5, charge 4 is PS4. I believe what that tells me is that I should be going for the level 3 charge, but if I reach 4 based on the circumstances, like if I end up holding it for longer, it's not going to be a detriment in any way. Like, the damage will still be good, I just won't have as many piercings, but I think it will come out to roughly the same damage, if not slightly better. But for DPS purposes, definitely charge 3 with PS5 is good enough. Bit out of critical distance though. In a way, I do feel sorry for people whose only experience of Elatrion in what is now referred to as traditional Monster Hunter is in this game. Because it's just not the same. It really is noticeably different in the 3rd gen games, and I really don't like how much Elatrion flies in the air here. Most of the fight is in the air, and in my opinion, it's just a worse experience to have to fight Elatrion in the air. And if you're using Blade Master, God help you. God help you. Yeah, I'm sure the Event Elatrion has very high attack. My strategy for this fight is to not get hit. Which should do me just fine. Tends to be a good strategy generally in Monster Hunter. Oh. So just that little tail slap there, even with gunner defense, that's a lot of damage. That was about 30% of my health with a tail slap turnaround. It's not filling me with confidence. Yeah, I know you got a fireball coming. Prick. Think I haven't fought you before? And Ice Cream's dead from the monster hopping back. That's such a Teostra moment, isn't it? What a Teostra moment. Are we still gonna waste our time doing this hunt, or what? That's good. Just have a moment of like a full second or two where you can't actually see anything. I can see you're trying to flash bomb, it's just making it harder for everyone else when you miss. I'm not sure what the flash bombing mechanics are like with Elatrion in this game. I'm assuming it's easier to flash bomb him here than it was in, say, 3 Ultimate, but yeah, it's definitely not as easy as it was in Portable Third and Try. Portable Third and Try, he'll go straight down with a flash bomb. Don't even need to aim it that well. But, whoop, that wasn't what I intended. But it seems that in this game, it's noticeably harder. Believe it or not, it was possible to do it in 3 Ultimate. There are people who think that it wasn't possible, but I've seen it many times. You just had to be really specific about not just the positioning, but also the timing. There were moments where it couldn't happen, and then moments where it could, and I actually don't remember what the window of opportunity was. I don't think I ever utilized the flash bomb against Elatrion in 3 Ultimate. I just submitted to what Capcom really wanted, which was for us to use the Ballista Binder. And I understood why they did it. It's because flash bombs did end up trivializing the fight a little bit in Try and Portable Third. And good night. I don't mind hanging around in this room, I just want quests that are at an appropriate level for the team to be put on the board. I didn't, admittedly, try to dissuade them from putting Event Elatrion on the board, but I was a bit too lazy. Now, I'm definitely feeling more inclined to make recommendations against Event Quest Elder Dragons. Really. Yeah. I mean, his defense is okay, but again, I wouldn't use... Alice said... Was that Alice saying that? Alice says, lol, bad start. Well, that almost makes it sound as if you want to try it again. It was a bad start, but I would argue that it never became good, okay? So... Oh, I really like that weapon that your cat has. It's like a flaming fan. I've never seen it before. It can't be said that I know much about cat equipment, just for people who don't know. Just for people who don't know. Just look carefully at this and you should have a pretty clear idea of how I feel about cats. And, it's not because I think it shouldn't have been added, it's just that it does absolutely nothing for me. I have no interest in palicos. Well, in prowlers, sorry. I think I said palico in the last recording as well. I meant prowler. They both start with P, it's confusing, okay? But yeah, prowlers... It almost doesn't even feel like I'm playing Monster Hunter. It doesn't... There is no satisfaction in using a prowler for me. If you happen to enjoy it, good for you. But I'm completely uninterested. Apparently the cats were stronger in Generations, relatively speaking. Oh, Ice Cream has left the room. Alice responds to that with, huh? Or maybe not even as a question, more like, huh? I don't know why I'm trying to communicate these things to you. What would Kevin like to put on the board now? What's his gun, actually? Moo Flare Cannon. Here I was thinking I misread it. I saw Moo Flare and thought, surely not, it must be Moon Flare. But no, it's actually Moo Flare, as in, moo! That kind of moo. Well, this guy's definitely got an entourage at this point. 993 999 999. That sounds like a really good phone number, doesn't it? So, what is it with you and posting? Could we not, please? So this is not the really bad Valstrax event quest. There is a Valstrax arena quest that's really bad, if I remember that correctly, but I'm pretty sure this is not the... Or is it the standard one? G, 4-star. Maybe that is not the event quest. I thought it was for a second. I just don't remember the way that I determine whether it's an event quest or not is based on my familiarity with the quest title. If it's a slightly unfamiliar quest title, that tells me that it's event. Maybe it... Yeah, because Sky Render, I think, is the standard one. So what's Supersonic? Surely that's an event quest, and if it is, we really need to step back and take stock of the situation. I mean, I don't think we should be taking a guy with full alloy into event Elder Dragon quests. Really? Well, I don't seem to have the quest, so let's just do it. Okay, apparently it's not an event quest, so I'll trust you on that. Also, welcome, Wonderlord. But yeah, could you imagine if he, after posting the event Elatrion, went and posted that arena event Valstrax quest? That is one of the worst quests. I'd say that's the hardest quest in this game, just about. I would say it's in the top 3. Because the thing with Valstrax is that he can hit at really great distances. He's got a really wide range. In particular, he has that spinning attack where he sticks his wing out, and I don't think there's a monster in the series, in the mainline series, that has an attack range like that. It's unbelievable. You couple that with event quest damage. Oh no. I can deal with it with the right team, just not with this guy. Not with this guy. Charge Blade, how about that? And with Valstrax, all you need to do is avoid Dragon Element, and then choose whatever weapon you have that has the best stats for Element and, well, pretty much best stats in general, because obviously it's equal elemental weakness across the board, save for Dragon. So, I think it might be Lao Shan Lung in my case, isn't it? Or maybe even that. Yeah, possibly Fatalis Count. No, excuse me, that's no, that is Thunder, yeah. So, I was saying Lao Shan Lung just after I explained to avoid dragon damage, which is really clever of me. I might just go with this. No, I won't take your guild card because I only have space for one more. I have to make it count. I should use Nakako's Gunlance? Nah. No thank you. I wonder if I have the Nakako's Gunlance. I'm pretty sure that I do. I'd better have her. I'll be pissed if I don't. Remember, next time we encounter a monster that's weak to dragon, I'm using the Nakako's Greatsword. That thing makes me weak in the knees. I absolutely love that weapon. I think Valstrax is starting around here, isn't he? Not literally here, but just to the east of where I am. I've definitely fought him here before. I don't know why, I just wasn't that familiar with the quest name, so that always makes me suspicious. But yeah, I've definitely done this quest many times before. So yeah, general... And I say this to remind myself of it more than anything else. I mean, it works conversationally, but can I just say... Aim for the head of the Valstrax, but not when he's enraged, because if he's enraged, then he's not going to take any elemental damage from his head whatsoever. So... yeah, but I probably won't magnetize myself to the head even now. I'm just going to be a little more focused on... DPS. Nope. Awkward timing for that teammate's attack. And now he's enraged. It's not that he takes less element, it's that he actually has zero weakness to element on the head when enraged. Zero. So the head should be avoided completely, unless you're not using element at all, which is not... I wouldn't say it's ill-advised to avoid element, but... yeah. Oh yeah, that's right, I'm playing Generations Ultimate, so I won't be going for any SAEDs. I'm glad I just remembered that. Haven't used Charge Blade in this game in a while. Mainly because I haven't played this game very much recently. Oh, he's on the ground. Might aim for the tail. Why not? Well, I've got Ripper Shield. Ripper Shield I tend to save for when I want more files, which is coming up very soon. what I usually do is I'll get in close proximity, and then I'll do an unsheath into it. Oops. Is it ZL? What's ZL? Need to remember the button combination now. It's not that, is it? Oh, L, of course, not R. Just had a weird mental blank. Well, I tried. You can't accuse me of not trying. You can, however, accuse me of being borderline useless. Here I am wasting my red shield period as well. I could just use Energy Blade instead. That looked like a mount, didn't it? Apparently not. Alright, you're getting Energy Bladed. Someone got put in the air. Obviously, Energy Blade's very good for when you really want to break something. It has some sort of part break ability, but... Where the hell are you? I can't see where you are, so I'm just diving. But yes, I wasn't really worried one way or another about severing tails or breaking parts of the monster. I obviously made the terrible mistake of putting myself anywhere near the switch axe user. That's the second time now that I've tried to share the head with the switch axe user and come off second best. Did not work out at all. But that's alright. We're fighting a 4th gen Elder Dragon, so he dies almost immediately. Ugh, remember when Elder Dragons were actually a substantial fight? I do find it lamentable when you've got, you know, a class of monster in the series and then they just become only slightly stronger than your standard monster as the series wears on. And maybe it's because they didn't really want people to be having to make that time commitment. Maybe investing 15 minutes in a hunt with a really well-equipped group of 4 people is just not acceptable. I don't know. You think the problem is how strong the hunters are? I don't know. Have we compared the sort of health that let's say a 2nd gen Elder Dragon has to a 4th gen Elder Dragon? I'm pretty sure they would have had more health in the past. You're definitely right that the hunters are way stronger now than they were, but not by much. It depends on what you're... I would say the potential damage that you could deal in 2nd gen was still very high, depending on the loadout. You know, a purple sharpness greatsword on the head of a Teostra, for example, that's pretty heavy damage in 2nd gen. Really heavy damage. So... yeah, I would say Valstrax definitely is one of the monsters that feels weaker. Even Atul-Kar feels more substantial. I shouldn't say even Atul-Kar, I think you would expect that for one of the final bosses of the game, but... how many people are using crit boost? Well, he's definitely not. He is. I'm not. Okay, so one person. But you're right, crit boost definitely changed the landscape of the amount of damage that the average hunter would do. Crit boost, admittedly, is used by most people who want maximum damage, and rightly so. But in the case of this lobby, you have to understand, this guy is basically flogging that monster with a warm lettuce leaf, and this guy is the only one with crit boost, so even under those circumstances, we absolutely bodied that monster. And this guy was using a hunting horn. So, I don't know. I'd say it's probably somewhere in between. I'd say, on the one hand, yes, the monsters are weaker, but also the hunters are stronger. So... did you guys talk about Nikakos? Did I hear someone mention Nikakos? Well, it is Nikakos time. Now, Nikakos is weak to dragon, isn't he? Would it be a bad idea to bring the Nikakos Greatsword for this? Probably not. Let's just do it. I do enjoy using a dragon, or usually an elder dragon. It's typically an elder dragon where you can use their own weapon against them. I've always found that fascinating. Alright, blunt greatsword. I'm ready. Where are you? Infernal Corleonis. Look at that greatsword. When was the last time you saw someone use this thing? And again, you wouldn't use it unless you were, well, possibly also using Bitter Affinity, but in my case, I'm just using Bludgeoner. It would definitely work well with Bitter Affinity. I sort of regret the negative affinity now that I look at it. Well, let's just pretend that that's not there. It might be a tall order to get both Bludgeoner, Mind's Eye, and Bitter Affinity. I might not need Mind's Eye, because again, you're dealing with a greatsword here. Those level 3 charges tend to reduce the chance of bouncing on, or bouncing with green sharpness, but I haven't really applied that theory to the game itself. Maybe the increased damage that you get from level 3 charging is still not enough with green sharpness to not bounce, so for good measure I've got Mind's Eye. But perhaps I could substitute Mind's Eye for Bitter Affinity. It might work. Yes, AJ, I will accept that the circumstances maybe lent themselves to a faster hunt, but just across the board, I have noticed that Valstrax is weak as shit. And I have also noticed that across the board, you know, Elder Dragons like, for example, Shagaru Magala. What else? Well, definitely Shagaru Magala as well always felt very weak in this game. And possibly quite weak in late game for Ultimate as well. You're about to get attacked by your own weapon. Hope you're ready, mate. Having my weapon come down on your skull shell, however, is not really ideal. That's also not ideal. It's a good spot for me to aim for where I'm definitely not going to miss. Admittedly, I don't usually use a greatsword on this monster, and I may be about to experience firsthand why it's not a good idea. How are we already at this stage? We just got here. I don't think I've ever seen that happen so quickly. Kevin must have some really heavy pierce damage. Yeah, Amatsu's not very strong either. But I would say that that was noticeable in Portable Third as well. So it's less a mark of 4th gen and probably more to do with the monster in that case. Or maybe that was just Portable Third in general. Very few monsters actually felt substantial in Portable Third, based on how strong the hunter was versus the monster. Laser beam? No. Looked a little bit like you were doing it. It's a bit too early for you to be doing laser beams. Got our opportunity to hit the weak point. Or one of the weak points. You can also mine here, obviously. Also, I am noticing that I'm not getting too many negative procs, which makes me feel a little bit better about having negative 25% affinity. Something that you don't really hit in at least the G-rank version of this fight is the blowhole. This monster has a blowhole somewhere. It's towards the front, I think. Definitely in the high rank quests you hit it more often. I only remember that because it was relatively recently when I had to make the Nikakos weapons, and that required me to actually go and do some lower ranked versions of this fight. He just keels over and then you hit his blowhole. It's a little unusual because it doesn't look very much like a weak point. I'm really just waiting for an opportunity to use Moonbreaker. Oh, come on. That wasn't much of an opportunity. It looked as if it was going to be, but he immediately burrowed back in. Well, the tentacle did anyway. Going for these because they are closer. Getting some good hit stun on this. Hit lag, sorry. And that's one good thing about 4th gen, you've still got that really satisfying hit lag when you hit something weak. Apparently Manual has an auto shout, which is literally just Yeon Garuga. I'm not sure what that refers to. Oh, there you go, blowhole opportunity. But not really. Not really. You've fallen over in a really awkward spot, Nikakos. But of course, when it comes to hitting weak points, that all becomes quite trivial when you're using Pierce. I will try to use Brimstone Slash at some point. I would like to save it for when we're in that situation where we get on his skull shell, attack that weak point, and then I can use Brimstone Slash and have someone who's attacking right next to me on the same weak point trigger my increased damage. That would be good. I'd like to do Moonbreaker on your face. But I just want to make sure that you're standing still when I do it. You think that made contact? Maybe. Alright, Brimstone Slash, come on. Should be able to get it out. It's very quick when you're being hit by other people. See? Look how quick that is. And it's beautiful damage. Bless your heart, Kevin. Trying to mine. I'm not saying you shouldn't at least attempt to do it, but you're obviously not going to be successful with us swinging our weapons around. It was especially funny to see him immediately get thrown into the air like that. I've been boned. So he is approaching laser beam territory. When his skull shell goes almost vertical, that's how you know it's imminent. You can tell he's getting close because the skull shell's, you know, starting to become varicolored and glowy. But... oh, thank you for that. Not. Okay. Again, I shouldn't... I made a terrible mistake standing anywhere near you, really. Switch Axe Master. But yeah, once his skull shell goes vertical, that's how you know it's coming. Another flinch? Not quite, just a break of some kind. But yeah, what I was trying to say was that you're never going to be caught unawares. As long as you know that when it goes vertical, it's the beam is going to come. Yeah, I think that's vertical, isn't it? Yeah. Alright, he'll be doing it any moment. Once he stops being flinched. Yeah, it's a bit dangerous to get towards the face right now. I'm not sure what the timer is like. It might be something like 10 seconds, 15 seconds. Use your tranks? Do you say that as a joke? Is he the same as Yamatsukami? I've never seen tranks being used on him, so... Alright, I think he's going to sweep that in my direction. Or is he not? Okay, it's going towards Kevin and Alice. Kevin is dead. Well, apparently it works, just like Yamatsukami. I've never seen it done. Well. What's the timing? Do you throw it just before or during? Or both? Does it have to go into the mouth, or what do we... when his mouth is sparking? Okay. I do love the final death scene. That is the coolest way for a monster to die. A fucking laser beam off into the distance. Going out with a bang. That's what that is. But yeah, at least that felt like a more substantial hunt. A proper Elder Dragon. And I used his weapon against him. Which I can't imagine that he appreciated very much. Manuel, you hit me enough during the quest. Really, when the quest is complete, I don't need you to hit me now as well. I'm sure it's all in good fun, but... there's a reason why I don't like switch axes, and that's one of them. They get in the way. The beverage today is sort of it's a spiced fortified wine. Nakako's Secret Soul Orb, yeah, so I got a Soul Orb and a Secret Soul Orb. Wasn't too sure if I had carved the high rank or the G rank rare, but I ended up getting the G rank one, it seems. What's on the agenda, Mr. Mooflare? Mooflare. What does that even... Maybe it's from Moofers? Was it forged from Moofer materials? That's what I need to know. Mooflare. I don't think I can see his talisman, no. It's a creator talisman 3 slot with... Well, I don't know what's on the 3 slot. Probably expert 5, so it looks like Tenderizer 5 3 slot. Yeah, Tenderizer 5 3 slot. And Hayabusa Feather to get the critical eye plus 3, in addition to the decoration. Into thin air. What would be fun for Chameleos, I wonder? How about Sword and Shield? Do I have a Dragon Blunt Sword and Shield? That's the question. I don't mind using fire, of course, but... I don't seem to. It's just that I recently used the fire blunt sword and shield. Maybe I'll get... Do I have fire blunt dual blades? Yes. Dual Kunku. Let's use these. I am a bludgeoner enthusiast. There we go. So 365, 27, green sharpness. Although 365 isn't that exciting. Oh, it's going to be in the quest where you actually get the true boost from Bludgeoner. Bludgeoner will not actually show you the damage boost out of the quest. It's only during the hunt when it procs. Because I was about to say, what? 365 isn't going to counterbalance my poor sharpness? Obviously, I forgot the crucial detail, which is that you can't tell until you're in the quest. What has Alice got? That is an ugly fucking hunting horn. That is... I guess it's a sort of... It's a big saxophone that's been left underwater for countless years. Covered in barnacles. But it's fucking ugly, I'm sorry. That's one of the worst hunting horns I've ever seen. And I've seen some ugly ones. It does look a bit Yamatsukami-like. It's mossy. Okay, what's the quest? You'd think I would remember. It's Chameleos. Well, I think I know where you start. He's already been found. Alright, so my actual damage is... bear with me. 401. Get over here. Alright. He's doing a lot of wandering around, isn't he? That tail is much more forgiving in 4th gen, as you can tell. Wow. And he doesn't have a consistent attack pattern with it either. Sometimes he'll just do 2, sometimes he'll do several. Or maybe it's just shortened here. Maybe he doesn't do the full 1, 2, 3, 4. And thank God for that. It slowed down the fight needlessly in the past. Bouncing a little bit. Probably more to do with my green sharpness. Well, not actually bouncing, I'm just getting the sound effect of what otherwise would be bouncing. Immune to binds. That's very situational. Immune to binds. It's also a really terrible translation. Should be immune to binding, or... yeah, binds? I just don't like that word, okay? I feel like if that word is being used, something has gone wrong. You should be thinking of an alternative way to phrase it. Binds. Or just immune to bind, even. As a concept. We don't need to pluralize it. Apparently that hunting horn sounds nice. I guess it's a saxophone sound. Is it that fucking moody saxophone from the 80s? That sort of, you know, beginning portion of Private Dancer by Tina Turner sort of moody saxophone. I can't quite hear it, to be honest. I'm too busy listening to the sound of my weapons making the bouncing sound, and also probably Manual with his insect glaive. Bloodwind. It was way off target towards the end, though. Where art thou? There you are. Obviously, if someone had dragon damage, we'd be able to eliminate that gimmick of his. That invisible business. Does it still require dragon damage? I think it does. Maybe it doesn't. I do forget what they carry over and what they don't. I do have Wolf's Maw ready to go. I'll sharpen up and then use Wolf's Maw. Just for those who aren't aware, if you're using blunt element, it's actually better to be in green. Whereas it's slightly better to be in yellow if you're raw. Slightly better, not by much. I'll get Wolf's Maw ready and then I will Bloodwind. Because they do stack, incidentally, in terms of effectiveness. You can reap the benefits of Wolf's Maw with Bloodwind. So in other words, imagine all the hits that you would get from Bloodwind, it would basically double. And you can visually see it. That's what I like about it. I don't have to sit here and fucking wonder, I can actually see that it does double hits on Wolf's Maw. Got another mount. Someone's using that bowgun hunter arm. With the long-ranged explosion. Blundwind is charging up so quickly, it feels. That's a good question. If you're using Wolf's Maw, and obviously the function of Wolf's Maw is to give you one extra slash, like one extra impact for every impact you have, does that also therefore charge up Hunter Arts twice as quickly? I do wonder. That's something that I've never ascertained for myself. It's amazing how in-depth you can get into these games, isn't it? Like, who has the answer to that? Wonderlord doesn't think so. Yeah, it may only be in terms of damage application rather than impacts that count towards building up a Hunter arm. Well, the horn's been broken. I don't know if any of us actually are dealing dragon damage, so probably doesn't require dragon damage in this game. Which makes sense. It's something that I would expect them to streamline. And I was pretty sure that they had done, but couldn't clearly remember. You can see now he can't fully turn invisible. He's just sort of awkwardly pretending to be invisible while we can see him completely. Well, not completely, but his outline remains very visible. He's sleeping? Why? Who's dealing sleep damage to him at this point? I still don't have bombs because I keep forgetting to bring them. Why there? You trying to break the wings, or...? Sorry, I ended up waking him up by hitting him with my weapon. It was just an awkward spot to detonate with paintballs, even. Not sure why the decision was made to place the bombs there. Maybe it was just to put them down, not even to get the wake-up damage. Some people don't even know you can get the wake-up damage at this point. Well, this is what I mean. I think it would have been strange for the guy to be shooting sleep shot at this stage, so Alice probably has sleep on the hunting horn. I'm sorry, that is still one of the ugliest hunting horns I've ever seen. Whoa. It does look like a Yamatsukami hunting horn. Even more so than the real Yamatsukami hunting horn, which is just a shell. But yeah, this has wound up, turned out to be a very good room. Wound up being a very good room. Got a large Elder Dragon gem. Not that I really need one. Well, perhaps I do. Maybe I can get some use out of it. I wonder how many I've accumulated at this point. It makes me wonder. I don't think I've needed one recently at any point, so I really should have checked to see. I'll have a look now. But yeah, as I say, good room. Any room where I can just get consistent hunts, and they're always a different hunt. Good room for the live stream. Seven large Elder Dragon gems. Was honestly hoping for more than that, but oh well. Alright, I'm going to visit the bathroom, and I'll be back in a moment. Hopefully these guys can wait for me, or perhaps, do you know what, Kevin's already got a fucking quest on the board, because he's not actually getting ready for the quests. He's only got one loadout, you see. So, what I'll do is I'll go to the bathroom once I'm in the hunt, so that I'm not delaying these people. Yeah, it must have been the bowgun guy. Apparently, oh, I see. This is, do you know what this hunting horn is? It must be related to the, what was it called? Like wyvern perch or something like that? That stupid log greatsword from Portable Third. That thing. With the massive poison value. This is actually a hunting horn version of that. Wow. But yeah, it's basically... Well, not in the case of this hunting horn, that is actually an instrument, but the greatsword is just a log with fungus on it. And apparently that log with fungus deals like 90 true poison, at least in 3 Ultimate. 85 to 90 true poisons. Unbelievable. Teostra. Teo Teskotoru. Let's just bring this. I won't overthink it. It's called the Poison Fungus Axe. Great. It's simultaneously the worst and best hunting horn, by the sounds of it. Very ugly, but also very funny. Oh, look at Manuel's switch axe, look at that. I didn't actually know that that weapon design was in this game. That actually harkens back to an event weapon from Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate. It was called the Dragon's Roar. It was an ice switch axe. Possibly Ice Awaken. But it's reappeared in this game with a reskin. It's got a very gilded appearance here. It's nice to see it again. It had a sort of cyan turquoise look in 3 Ultimate. Alright. I'll cool drink up and visit the bathroom. I'll be back in a moment. I do quite like this sword and shield set. Well, I was pouring my... Oh, Kevin's dead. While I was pouring my wine a short while ago, it splashed onto my fucking laptop. It's never a good idea to have any sort of technology near beverages, it has to be said. Okay. But yeah, I really like this set. Sharpness +2, critical eye +2, attack up small, element attack up, elemental crit. Oh, elemental sword and shield set. I love it. It's really funny because I actually originally built this set for a friend. I had a sword and shield set before this one, and a friend of mine that I actually got into the Monster Hunter series by getting him into this game, and he took very well to it, he enjoyed it a lot. I built him a sword and shield set, and it was basically this set, based on the talismans that he had, and then I realized, why the fuck don't I make this for myself? So I went and made it for myself. Ended up being better than what I had. Funny story. Yeah, I'm an absolute sucker for elemental damage. Absolute sucker for it. Feels strange fighting Teostra in this area, in this game. This is the area that you get to in Freedom Unite if you're really quick. And he actually glitches in this area, it's very strange. I'm not sure how he is in Freedom 2 and in DOS in this location, but in Freedom Unite, he glitches out really hard. What happens is that in the middle of the fight, he actually loses sight of you and flies up into the air and then repositions somewhere around here. And then it's like the confrontation begins anew. It's very unusual. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. I haven't really made a decision as to whether it's good or bad, because maybe if you're ranged, it's good for DPS, but for Blade Masters, I don't know. Maybe it's good for positioning on the head when he comes down, but it's annoying. Not sure about meeting Lunastra, though. Possibly. I have memories of fighting Lunastra here and in other areas, but I guess Lunastra might fly down there initially as well. Look out, Manuel. How? He was completely unaffected by that. He did some sort of evasive maneuver, I couldn't quite see what it was. Nope. Well, fuck my combo, I guess. These days I usually use water against this monster, but dragon's also perfectly reasonable. As for which one's better, I think it might technically be dragon, but water is still very effective. Depends on what you're hitting, I suspect, but if I'm aiming for the head, I think dragon's a little better for the head. Not just for the reason that I mentioned before, where you can break the horns, and I don't even think that's a feature in this game, or rather a requirement to break the horns, but I think that the head is a little weaker to dragon, if I remember correctly. I just remember looking at the weaknesses a long time ago and seeing that dragon was a little bit better across the board. Oh, he had absolute readiness, I see. Yeah, I never used that actually. In case you haven't noticed, I always use hunter arts that are specific to the weapon type. I don't have any actual evasive hunter arts unless they are built in for the weapon. So for example, well actually evasive. I have ones that close the distance, like blast dash and shield assault. But I don't know about evasive ones. Oh, there is one for the bowgun, which I use. It's the one where you jump back and then drop down 3 explosions. That's an evasive maneuver into an attack. I do definitely use that, but absolute readiness, no. Not saying it's a bad thing. Obviously, it worked out very well for him now. It's just so strange seeing that switch axe in this game. I had no idea that design was here in Generations Ultimate. It makes sense that they brought it back though, especially given the number of weapons that are in this game. You cannot underestimate how much content is in this game. It is unbelievable. So many weapons. If you were to make every weapon in this game, I would take off my hat to you. Even though I don't have a hat. But if I had a hat, I'd take it off to you. I do think Switch Axe is a bad designed weapon. I think that it's a alpha version of the Charge Blade. It was the first morphing weapon type. Look, I'm not going to pretend that it was a bad idea for third generation. It was interesting, it was innovative, it was new. But in the context of 4th and 5th generation, Switch Axe can eat my ass. It really can. It just has no business existing. And I understand that that's a harsh opinion, but I really do not think that it has any business existing. I think it would have been cool for like this cute experiment in 3rd gen. Why they decided to stick with it, I'm assuming, has to do with the fact that people would have become used to it. People would expect Switch Axe to be in their game after Monster Hunter Tri. But really, it's just an experiment. An experiment that, for one reason or another, they decided to keep with. And, I guess in the end, if you're Capcom and you introduce a new weapon type to the mainline series, you commit to that, don't you? Instead of just throwing it out because you've come up with the Charge Blade. And I wouldn't say that the Charge Blade and the Switch Axe are literally the same weapon type. I just think that the principle is the same thing. You're morphing from one type of bladed weapon into another, but just compare them for a moment and see just how much more detail there is in the design of a Charge Blade versus a Switch Axe. A Switch Axe is literally just... there's no real reason to use Axe mode. If you've got a weapon type where the entire purpose is to get into... well, I suppose it could be argued that for Charge Blade it's all about getting into Axe mode, but overall it feels more meaningful to use a Charge Blade versus a Switch Axe. When it comes to 3rd generation, Switch Axe had its own issues, not related to the fact that it was a morph weapon or the fact that it was poorly designed. The damage was weird. It was very, very weak. The motion values were pathetic back in Tri. And they were only slightly increased in Portable 3rd and 3 Ultimate. It was always quite a weird weapon. It was a gimmick, that's what it was. It was a gimmick weapon. It always felt like a gimmick weapon, and it did not impress people who had played the games before Tri. It definitely attracted new players, but outside of that, it was, yeah, very much a gimmick. But despite having said that, I'm not saying it was a bad weapon. I just don't like it personally. I never liked it at all. Never, never, never. How about I use a raw Switch Axe after I've been shit-talking it? If I can actually find what I want. I think I want the, blunt longsword. And then we're going to use a blunt Switch Axe, which is what? I could either use the Grand Versa Axe, or I could use... I'll use this, the Gigantor Dasher. It's fucking ugly, but it's strong. Only in conjunction, however, with Bludgeoner. I understand that when you're focusing on the damage that you deal to monsters, you would say that impact files and power files are essential. I don't really agree with that. I think situationally, having an element file on a good element switch axe on a monster that's really weak to a particular element's probably worthwhile, but I don't know. Oh yeah, and that's because Switch Axe sucked, AJ. AJ says that Switch Axe was less destructive to the overall balance of the game than Insect Glaive was in 4 and Charge Blade was in 4 Ultimate. And obviously you can include 4 Ultimate in the case, or rather include Insect Glaive in the case of 4 Ultimate, because, yeah, they were extremely strong. And maybe Capcom approached it better with Switch Axe. What they did with Switch Axe, it was really weird. They made a weapon that actually wasn't all that strong, but in terms of the inflated raw values, it looked strong, which really confused new players. So people who didn't actually understand what inflated values were assumed that the higher attack you had, the better. So if you were using a greatsword, oh, I'm dealing more damage. If I'm using a hammer, I'm dealing more damage. Switch Axe. The inflated values were huge for that, considering what actual true damage it did. So there was this misapprehension among new players in Monster Hunter Tri, particularly, that Switch Axe was really strong. It was really not strong at all. It was not that effective, relatively speaking. But people thought it was really strong because of those inflated values. But yeah, you're right, it didn't affect the balance of the game, which maybe sets it in better stead when you compare it with, say, the Insect Glaive. And obviously the Charge Blade in 4 Ultimate was very strong as well, to the point where, well, no, it wasn't to the exclusion of other weapon types. You could be extremely effective with, say, a greatsword. But there was definitely a Charge Blade greatsword supremacy among the hyper-meta game players of 4 Ultimate. And then obviously for the average player, Insect Glaive ruined everything by being very, very good at mounting everything. And then you couple that with Rodeo God, and then every single monster in the game becomes trivial. And basically subservient to your mounting attacks. Yeah, I think the Charge Blade and the Switch Axe were popular initially for the same reasons. Wonderlord. I think it's because they were morphing weapon types that were really dynamic and exciting. But in the end, Charge Blade was actually really effective, whereas Switch Axe, not so much. Malfestio, Zenoga, Rathlos, and Tigrex. Okay. And this is G rank, right? It is. They're just all standard monsters. But yeah, one of the biggest criticisms that I can make of Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate is the way in which Insect Glaive ruined it. As effective as Charge Blade was in that game, Insect Glaive did so much more to damage the balance, to damage the way people experienced the game. Because quite literally, it was like a get out of jail free. If you had a monster that was giving you a hard time, either you could equip an Insect Glaive or get someone else to do it. You wouldn't even need to ask. You just go online and someone will have an Insect Glaive and just absolutely lock down the monster with constant mounting. And just to translate that into something clear, When you mount the monster and constantly drop it down on the ground, it is completely vulnerable. It's like having an endless trap. You just attack the head. And when the whole team can just get in there and attack the weak point repeatedly, and oftentimes this can include the use of traps, depending on the team dynamic, the monster can't really do anything. For me personally, just to explain how that affected my gameplay initially in 4 Ultimate, I was really excited to play again, or fight Fatalis. In 4th gen for the first time, I was so interested to see how Fatalis would feel like as a fight in 4th generation. And I ended up in this room with everyone except me using an insect glaive. And they just mount spammed him to death within about 6 minutes. And I was not able to actually get any sense for how the fight played out, because the entire time he was in the process of being mounted. He wasn't actually doing anything. This would have been in 2015 sometime. I'm gonna say early to mid 2015. And it just wasn't, no, 2015? 2014 maybe. Late 2014? I think I'm getting confused with when, like, for example, the White Fatalis event quest came out, which was like early to mid 2015, but just standard Fatalis when I first fought him. It was fairly early on in the game's lifespan. And honestly, I couldn't get a feel for how to actually fight the monster, and every time I would try to find a group, it were these insect glaive using people who had allowed themselves to enter this comfort zone where, as long as they could mount the monster and get the head available for the whole team to hit, they could get through the quest nice and easily. Of course, you're dealing with Fatalis here, who is extremely weak on the head. Extremely weak. His elemental weakness on the head is higher than most monsters in the series. It's like 50 or something. 50 to 60 dragon on the head. And the neck as well. So mount spamming was extremely effective against him. So for me that was really disappointing, because not only did I feel like I couldn't experience Fatalis in this new iteration, I also felt that other people didn't get to experience Fatalis, as I got to experience him in the past, which was, quite frankly, a crushingly difficult and very, very frustrating experience. For them, it was over in 6 minutes and they barely got to see what the monster was doing. Same as what I had to deal with early on, so... yeah, people who got to fight Fatalis in this game for the first time were much better served by the way people fought Fatalis here than in 4 Ultimate. Like, you couldn't mount spam him in this game, at least not in that way. So you get a much more authentic experience against Fatalis here. I didn't mind Quick Sheath. So Quick Sheath was first introduced in Portable 3rd. The reality of Quick Sheath is that it doesn't make Greatsword broken, and I'll tell you why. It's because in most games, you're going to have to forego damage skills in order to get Quick Sheath. If you're really anal about critical draw, Quick Sheath can be considered very effective, but in many builds, it's actually not ideal. Like, I wouldn't describe Quick Sheath as meta, personally, because I think, and I'm speaking for people that I don't really understand when I say this, but I don't think meta players would advise a person to use Quick Sheath, even for the DPS benefits, because of what you would have to sacrifice to get it in most cases. I enjoy Quick Sheath. I enjoy the experience of, you know, quickly putting my weapon away, and I also like that it really lends itself to the Greatsword weapon type. Any armor skill that works really nicely in conjunction with a particular weapon type is something that I really enjoy. But I don't think meta players would like that. I don't think they use it. Oh, okay, so it is actually used in 4 Ultimate. But yeah, it probably depends on the game. Okay, so Tigrex and Zenoga have appeared at the same time. Obviously, we'll start off with Tigrex. I've not been using my Hunter Arts at all, by the way. I'd better start doing that. Demon Riot is a passive damage boost. I'll use that in conjunction with Trance Slash. I'll try to wait for an opportunity to use Trance Slash. When you're dealing with Trance Slash level 3, it goes on for so long that the only way to really get full use out of it is to wait for the monster to either be in a trap or, you know, you get started with the combo as soon as he falls down for a knockdown. Otherwise, you're not going to get the whole thing out. It goes on for like 8 seconds. It's a long combo. My damage, by the way, 412. With this switch axe. Nope. But yeah, I wouldn't really describe Quick Sheath, for example, as being damaging to the balance of Greatsword. Not that that's precisely what you said, but it's along the lines of what you said. You know, the idea that it might make it too strong. I better do Trance Slash now. Come on, hurry up! I have to do it now because I'm almost out of Demon Riot. Well, didn't get much of that. Got about maybe 40% of that on target, if even. Yeah, I think individual players can decide whether or not they want to have that edge in exchange for a damage skill, or in exchange for another skill, because I always find with Greatsword sets, particularly if you're like me where it's essential for you to be able to resist roars with the Greatsword, not everyone's like that, not everyone's that way inclined, and I don't really want to bring meta players into the discussion because I don't function in the way that they do. I don't look at the game in the way that they do, and I don't play the way that they do. I don't get the same satisfaction out of the game that they do, but they are not necessarily obsessed with resisting roars in the way that I am. But for me, it's essential because it's such an obvious opportunity to hit the monster, and it happens frequently enough in the fight, where not only is it an opportunity to take advantage of, it also prevents you from being interrupted in an existing charge that you're doing. So it's like a double benefit. So for me, it's essential to always be getting high-grade earplugs, or, depending on the game, rock steady, or even just earplugs if you're willing to choose either an earplugs or a high-grade earplugs loadout, depending on the monster you're fighting. Now, when you have that in play, I'm going the wrong way. When you have that in play, never mind, I'm not going the wrong way, because we've only paintballed the Zenoga. I've confused myself. Thought we were following the paintball, we are not. I'd better go and paintball this Tigrex. But yeah, when you've got a few skills that are necessary, so for example, focus, that I think everyone would agree focus is necessary, high-grade earplugs or earplugs, critical draw. Something like Quick Sheath may not necessarily, depending on the game, be easy to get in conjunction with those other skills. So maybe something else that's easier to get that also adds to your damage would be a better choice for overall DPS and also, yeah, just damage in general. So it depends on what you're willing to sacrifice. I would say axe mode on switch axe obviously is not what you want to be doing. Switch axe in axe mode is building up into sword mode. So its only function is to allow you to deal damage when you're waiting to go back into sword mode, but I have to say that the big, heavy overhead swing of the axe mode, of the switch axe, is something I've always loved. This attack right here, that has always felt amazing for me. Always loved that attack. Always felt like I'm doing good damage when I get that out. And it is, for the axe mode, the best motion value attack. It's just that it's not very strong. Like, relatively speaking, it's good, but still not an amazing motion value, from what I recall. Slowly making my way to the Zenoga. Even if I hadn't paintballed him, I could have just psycho-serumed, obviously. Wouldn't have been the end of the world, but it does make it easier when he is paintballed. Alice is apparently pissed off that Kevin died. Responded with something that had to be censored in the chat. Oop. Look how quickly he's moving. I'm not going to say it's faster than usual, but after having fought the Tigrex, he feels a little bit more frantic. If you're wondering why I'm getting KO value on his head, it's because of my exhaust coating on this switch axe. Exhaust file, sorry. Which obviously only comes out with sword mode. Yeah, I might try and slash you, seeing as though you're on the ground as we speak. Didn't have enough charge to get the whole thing out, unfortunately. Maybe I was being a bit overzealous. Yeah, whatever. I'm following my better judgment. I'm exercising my judgment by healing instead of attacking the monster while he's down. Just want to play it safe. I don't know how many deaths we've had, but I've seen at least one. What are we on? Yeah, just the one. It'd be nice to get a KO, wouldn't it? Oh, never mind. I still come off second best even when I'm the one with the switch axe alongside Manuel. Great. Does that mean I'm more courteous? What does that mean? Who knows what it means? Because if you think about it, like, would it be better for him to do an attack that hits me away from the head, or settle for something that does slightly less damage but allow the both of us to hit the head at the same time? You know, if you're worried about team damage, that would be factoring into your damage calculations. It's not just about you, it's also about the other person. You know? Are you dealing so much damage that it's going to not only be better for you, but also compensate for the damage that I would have done had I been able to continue hitting the monster? That's the question, and usually the answer to that is no. Actually, like, normally it's not going to do so much more damage that it would compensate for a whole other hunter and the damage that they're dealing. And that's the principle that I follow. Like, even if I don't want to be sanctimonious and say, oh, think of the experience of the people that you're playing with. Like, even if that's not my focus, consider the damage dealt to the monster. You know, it's better for everyone to be able to attack consistently. than for you to just settle on what happens to be most damaging for you personally. It's just a thought. I'm not sure what BDE is, AJ. What's BDE? Remember, ladies and gentlemen, when I find a Tigrex, I get a mantle. It's a requirement. Every time. Big dick energy, right. The switch axe is the extension of his willy. That's why he goes into that big swinging axe attack with his switch axe without any concern for the people around him. It's because for him, he's just swinging his dick around. That's what he's doing. Kevin must be in heaven. Unintended rhyme. He's just got a whole fucking team with nothing to do, and he can just post whatever he wants. Eat your heart out, SOS system. The SOS system was necessary because people don't want to take the time to make a room and wait for groups. There's no way that that's sustainable in modern gaming. The only way forward is to make it so that you can just select the monster you want to fight and then have a matchmaking system put you into a group with random people that you're never going to see again. There's no other way. Or you can get lucky and be like Kevin. I don't think Kevin's complaining. You think Kevin's complaining that he doesn't have an SOS system? I don't think so. I wouldn't say so personally. Oh, this is a longsword that I never use, although it wouldn't be appropriate for this quest. But look at this thing. I love this longsword. Oh, is that not the most satisfying thing you've ever seen? Look at the length of this. It's unbelievable. This has to be one of the longest longswords in the series. It's insane. In real life, you wouldn't be able to wield something this long. It's almost tall enough to be 2 people in height. It's, yeah, it's a really cool longsword that I never use, ever. But I just noticed it there while going through my weapons. I'll use something raw again. Well, I suppose this time I can use my other switch axe, because, I don't know, I really like the switch axe apparently. Not that one. It's my other general use blunt switch axe, which is poison. Oh no, blast, excuse me, not poison. Yeah, so this is one of those switch axes that very much looks like a basic, general use, early G-rank switch axe. But with Bludgeoner, you can definitely get some use out of it. It's good. It's 380, I think, damage. Oh no, excuse me. I think it ends up at 380 with 20 blast. It's not too bad. Not too bad. I'm just so obsessed with Bludgeoner at the moment. Alice is cosplaying as a Najarala. Look at this question description. I've had enough. I've already had it. Hold on, I need to read this out. This is unbelievable. I've had enough. I've already had it up to here, dodging Yangaruga beaks and Najarala tails. Now there's a Rathian and an Astalos? This is my last chance. Entrusted this note... What? What do you mean entrusted this note to a friendly Mosswine? Did you run out of characters to fit in the quest description, translators? Go on without me, my Mosswine friend. Run free, find help. Okay. I guess they couldn't fit, like, I entrusted. He wasn't speaking in short form English for the entirety of that, but then decided to just for that sentence. Anyway, apparently a Mosswine had to send for help, and we are responding to the SOS, as it were. And what is the quest? The monster list? It is Yangaruga, Najarala, Rathian, and Astalos. It was actually described. Whoops, I'm going the wrong way. It was described in the request, but... I did not internalize the information. Ugh, Yangaruga. What a monster. This is a really big one. Look at the size of him. This is a Gold Crown Large. Absolutely. This is huge. This is like a Diablost size Yangaruga. Can't believe it. It'll be interesting to see what the size is. I'll try to remember. I'll try to remember that I need to check that at the end of the quest. Another knockdown. It's not a good day for you, Garuga. Especially considering you've got reduced health. Of course you're limping. I would expect that. Ironically, Manuel's auto shout, which is, if you recall, Yangaruga, is very situationally appropriate. Yeah, he just happens to have one of his auto shouts being Yangaruga with an exclamation mark. I'm not going to pretend to understand it, but as I say, it works out pretty well when you're fighting a Yangaruga. Now stop it. And he's dead. You are much too big. Look at the size. I just can't get over how big you are. Your head is bigger than me. Oh, probably the biggest one that I remember fighting. The keyword being remember. It may not actually be that significant. I definitely haven't fought one that big in the early games. Definitely not. Manual switch axe? Oh. Yeah, what is that? I don't recognize that. It looks like an event switch axe. It's definitely not a monster that I recognize, so I'm going to assume that that is an event switch axe. I think it's safe to say that it is a Generations or Generations Ultimate event weapon. But I actually think mine looks cooler. Do you know why?
Mine has a similar visual appeal, but it's more realistic. It's a more realistic version of what makes both of our switch axes appealing visually. So I like mine more. Who would have thought? His might be more functional, but I'm not here to be functional, I'm here to have fun. I'm here to, like, deal decent damage, and that's good enough for me. I'll hold off on Trance Slash until I get Demon Riot. I'm just going to load this up here, because the thing with Demon Riot is the best way to use it is to wait until you've got full charge on your switch axe. Oh god, Najrala's here. That's not good timing. Should have waited until we killed this lady first. Dragon lady. Probably not appropriate to refer to a dragon as a lady, whether male or female. Probably considerably less appropriate if male, but still. It's always good timing for a flash bomb when we're trying to get it in a trap, but at any rate. Give it a rest, man. Well, because you're in a trap, I'll attack you. How about that? Everyone else is ignoring him. Well, no, Kevin's getting involved, I think. Kevin is getting as involved as he can, given what he's capable of. We'll phrase it that way. Turf war. We really should follow Rathian. Unless... Oh no, she's dead, excuse me. There's no need to follow her. And if we were to attempt to follow her, we wouldn't be getting very far. Not much distance needs to be travelled, particularly when she's dead. Alright, Demon Riot. And let's see if we can get a Trance Slash out. It's much easier with Najrala because he's all curled up, you see. So even when he moves, sometimes he stays in one place. Hopefully I can demonstrate that now. See? Oh, mwah. How lovely is that? Now, one of the reasons why Trance Slash is really good with Demon Riot is because Trance Slash, as a hunter art, will consume your charge gauge when you use it. But Demon Riot will keep your charge gauge completely unaffected by anything that you do. It just slowly depletes based on a timer, entirely unrelated to how you use the switch axe, which includes Trance Slash. So it's not just good for dealing damage via Demon Riot's damage boost, but also good for conserving your charge consumption. There you go. Fucking absolute beatdown. Thanks for participating, Najrala, honestly. I got one carve out. No. It looked like I got one carve. I'm not... Oh, it's... I was wondering what was attacking me. I thought it might have been a teammate, but no, it's just a really irritating Velociprey. Unfortunately, Rathian has already despawned, and I understand why. It's because it's a multi-monster quest. Oh yes. I should check to see how much damage I've got with this switch axe. 379. It's not amazing. It's okay, but it's not amazing. There are better options, even for bludgeoner out there, but... Because remember, while 379 might look really good, you have to understand that it's as high as it is to make up for the fact that there is no damage boost from your sharpness. You know, if you were to use... I have absolutely no basis to say this, but just to illustrate my point, maybe if you had a switch axe with 300 true raw with purple sharpness, maybe it would be dealing the equivalent of 360? I've got no basis with which to say that, but that's my point. It's not meant to be stronger than having a sharpness multiplier. It's meant to make up for the fact that you don't have one. And that's why I do it. I don't do it because I think, oh, big number, bigger than usual, must be better. No, that's not the point. It's that I want just another avenue for achieving appropriate damage. It's just an alternative to my standard loadouts. And it's fun. I enjoy it. But yeah, 379, not great. Not great when you've got green sharpness. But as I say, it's passable. Quite hard to get away from that tail attack. I managed to do it. Barely. Speaking of tails, I wouldn't mind cutting it off. I have to say, this Trat / being charged up is distracting me. But it just doesn't feel right to use it unless I've got Demon Riot ready. And in effect. Well, no, I think yellow is... because yellow will compensate for its lacking sharpness bonus by giving you even more raw. So I think yellow is still good, AJ, but if you're using element, you are going to not just have the lack of sharpness boost to your raw, but also to your elemental damage. So if you drop from yellow to, if you drop from green to yellow, that's going to be a little bit more problematic if you've got a elemental weapon. That's my understanding of it. I asked the question some time ago, but... oh. When you say motion sweet spots, are you talking about motion value? So what, your motion value's ability to deal its damage is going to be affected by yellow sharpness? I don't know. If you hit too early in your motion. I don't really know what that means. Too early, too late in your motion. Yeah, I don't know what that means. Like what timing? Well, this is the thing, when you get into the mathematics of how damage is applied in Monster Hunter, it gets extremely complicated. Like, we're talking about, you know, your weapon coming into contact with a monster at different times during the animation, and the damage is different. Like, what? Why does Capcom find it necessary to make it that complicated? That's what I want to know. But yeah, I don't know what that is. Yeah, but again, when you say... The question that I'm asking is not whether or not it's true, it's what you actually mean by too early or too late. When you say motion, are you talking about literally the animation duration? So let's say an animation takes 3 seconds to go from beginning to completion. Like, if I hit the monster almost within the first few frames, is that going to be ideal? And then if it's towards the end of those frames? Okay, so towards the end of the frames of the attack animation, it's less damage, but that only happens when you have less than green sharpness. That damage calculation, or rather the fact that it's different, depending on the timing, will only be a factor if you have less than green sharpness. That's unbelievable. Why even... why? Right. No, Greatsword's a little different, isn't it? No, my understanding of Greatsword, AJ, is that Greatsword is different because the actual part of the Greatsword that you make contact with the monster using will depend on the damage. So if you hit a monster with the tip of your Greatsword, it will deal less damage. That is a function of the Greatsword and its damage application. If you hit a monster with like the actual center to lower part of the Greatsword, that's full damage. Basically, it's like a damage reduction if you hit it with the tip. But I haven't heard anything personally about timing when it comes to the animation. Like, frame 1 to the final frame of the animation, I did not understand that depending on where the damage is applied, the damage is going to be different. Oh, I ended up saying in the chat unbelievable, which was kind of funny. Didn't even mean to do that. So what? So too early is bad, basically. Too early is bad. You're not even discussing the fact that Greatsword will be... Is Joe weak to everything? No. Why are you asking that question? Thunder for Savage. What kind of question is this? Okay. Yeah, pro tip, do not be under green sharpness. Well, I'm still not that much more clear on why not, if that makes sense. Except for the fact that apparently there are weird damage calculations for when you are under green sharpness that wouldn't normally apply. As for why Capcom took the time to even do that, I don't understand. That's pretty unbelievable, but it's definitely a case for avoiding yellow sharpness. I just wish... So, to make it clear, if I were to conversationally explain what you've just told me in the future, I'm still not really clear on what I'm explaining. It's that, like, the animation, the actual timing of your animation is consequential to damage application, which means that you shouldn't even... I guess what you would say is that if you're standing too close, if you're like standing cheek by jowl with the monster, as soon as your weapon comes out, it's hitting the monster, right? So I suppose that's bad, because it comes out too soon. It hits the monster too soon, too quickly. So, wow, okay. That's pretty unbelievable. I can believe it only because Capcom are batshit crazy. I'll never understand those people, but that definitely squares with my understanding of how they make games. Or how they make Monster Hunter games anyway. Alright. So Manuel was confused about the weaknesses of Deviljho because of all the elemental weaknesses that he has. Or rather the number of elemental weaknesses that the armor has. But the monster himself, I mean, you wouldn't use a fire weapon against a Deviljho, for example. Juvenator's playing Pokemon Shield, remember Juvenator? He recently reappeared in my live streams. He stopped watching me for about 3 years and then randomly turned up again. It's kind of unusual. What happened was, the thing with Juvenator is that imagine having a person who understands what you say in English, but only communicates with you in the chat in a language you don't understand. That was Juvenator. I've got nothing against that guy whatsoever. But after about a year of this guy speaking to me in Spanish, when I repeatedly said to him, like, I can't communicate with you in that language. I can't. I cannot sit here and conduct a live stream and have a conversation with you in a language that I cannot understand. It's not possible. And eventually I blew up on him a little bit. It was circumstantial. Basically, there was an issue with my live stream. And he had told me that there was a problem with my live stream in Spanish. And I just said to the guy, like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? When I said, because I hadn't alluded to the fact that no one had mentioned it, but then apparently he had mentioned it in Spanish. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, I cannot speak your language. I've said it multiple times. What precisely are you playing at? And he stopped watching me for about 3 years after that. This is after about a year of speaking to me in a language I don't understand. And then he randomly turned up again. About 3 years later. And, admittedly, only briefly. Very strangely, he has a brother named Cavenator who plays Roblox. And would constantly struggle between whether or not to watch me or play Roblox. And he was very juvenile. He was very entertaining to have in the chat. So entertaining that on occasion I'd have to mute him. But yeah, that was fun. Fun history of my live streams. Alright, let's refamiliarize myself with the songs. Definitely prioritizing attack to start with. Let's get that out for the team. And then we can worry about other things. Oh no, I'm gonna get hit by this. That is one of my pet peeves. Being unable to get my full level song out. Well, thank you for the life powders. That was definitely useful. I didn't end up needing it, but I was definitely in danger. Oops. Wrong note. Sorry, Kevin. Did I hit you? No, I didn't. Thank God. It looked like I did. Look at that trap. Alice was on her back and managed to get the trap out. Whoops. Alright. What other songs have we got? Defense boost? Okay. I'll get that out in a moment. I only need to play it once because I've got the double notes. Is that how that works? Something like that. Oh, I see. These double notes with Hunting Horn, it's so foreign to me now. I just can't even understand it. if you've got a song in effect, so basically the best thing for me to do, right, would be to do attack boost at the standard level, then play defense up with double notes, and then that way I can increase attack to the second level whilst playing defense. But like, why? If I'm already queuing up the attack song, I may as well just encore that shit while it's right there. I find double notes to be a little strange. Maybe if I were a little more involved with Hunting Horn, I would better understand the benefits of it, but from the perspective of a layman, I really don't get it. So I have procedures that I follow from having used Hunting Horn in earlier games, and I'm not really convinced that I should be changing the way that I use Hunting Horn based on the implementation of these double notes. So... and to be honest, you know, when I go back into the murky depths of my understanding of music theory, I don't even know if there's a better way to refer to them than double note. That I remember. I remember niche things from my history of music theory, like demi-semi-quavers, but outside of that, I don't know shit. I don't know what that's called. When you've got the line drawn between them. No idea. No earthly clue. Well, I get that it's an incentive to hit the monster. That I do understand. 100%. And I think in the past I would have... yeah, I remember having that conversation in the past, saying that it makes sense that they made that change, but for me personally, when I speak from my own perspective as a Hunting Horn user, I actually don't see a benefit to doing it whatsoever. It's not clear enough. If it were something where, instead of having to encore it, I could just have the full effect of the song, that would make more sense, but that's not how it works. What it does is it gives you... like any currently in effect song that you've got going will get boosted again, but that's not enough of a benefit, not to me. Yeah, so Manuel's using a switch axe with... why? Do you reckon that greatsword charge made contact? It didn't look like it. That looked pretty off target to me. I could be going crazy, but... anyway, the point that I was trying to make was that Manuel's using, I think, about a 50 value thunder weapon. And this monster is extremely weak to thunder. Extremely. Epidemic says, it sure didn't. Referring to the greatsword making contact. You know, if you're going to detonate the bombs, you either detonate the bombs or you hit the monster. I mean, anyway. No. So the double notes do change depending on the different styles. La 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 la. Can't hear you. Can't hear. Oh, I don't have a fully functional left arm, which I realise looks like my right arm because the webcam's flipped, but I can't put both fingers in my ears, so I'll just go la 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 la. Other styles? What are you talking about? Can you not tell that they don't exist to me? I haven't been agonising over which style to choose for each quest, and there's a reason why. I'm not doing it for fun. I'm doing it because that's the way I played this game. I will occasionally equip Adept, just to be clear. If it's something like, I don't know, Event Crimson Fatalis or some stupid shit like that, or some ridiculous EX quest, I might use Adept, but other than that, no. There are other rare exceptions, like for instance, Lance, if you want to play it in the traditional way, weirdly, is Striker style. So now, Striker is considered to be more like a second-gen way of playing with weapon types, from what I was told. This is not based on experience, that's what I was told. But it's more like third-gen Lance. If you don't want to have that really heavy third thrust through guild style, you just use Striker Lance, and that's what I do. Gold Digger. Yes, Kevin. Yes, sir. Alchemy Hunting Horn is funny. Alchemy is funny in general. You fucking shake a barrel around. Okay, so here I am. I'm playing Monster Hunter. I'm fighting this monster, but hold on. Let me shake this barrel around for a while. What? Manual is almost 999. He is getting there. He was 993 when he joined. I'd feel pretty good to be in the room with him when he hits 999. It's an achievement in any game. It's not much of an achievement here, I have to tell you. It's... You know, I've played other Monster Hunter games more than this. And this is the only game that I'm at Hunter Rank 999 in, and the reason why is because you get HRP really easily here. It's just what it is, but... that I wouldn't say that to, in any way, detract from the achievement that Mr. Manuel has managed for himself. Oh, hold on. I think he's speaking on that subject now. In World and... In World and Rise, it's way too fast. That puts it into perspective, doesn't it? That really does. So after what I just said, I was just talking about how in this game, it happens way too fast. And he's going like, oh, in World and Rise, it's way too fast. What? If only you knew. But that's cool. I'm glad that he has played World and Rise, has experience in hitting max level in those games, came to this game, and enjoyed it enough to actually put the time in to get to Hunter Rank 999. I think that's commendable, and I'm happy to hear it. Alright, so this is in the jungle. I'll bring Thunder level 1, because I will have Thunder in terminal. In terminal is what I just said. Hopefully not terminal in any way, unless it's for the monster. But yes, Thunder level 1, and then we've got some internal ammo, and that should do us just fine. Oh. Yeah, obviously World and Rise are going to be faster. I don't know though. Like, I can't speak for Master Rank in Monster Hunter World because I quit Monster Hunter World before Master Rank existed, right? But for high rank, progression seemed about the same as this game. So I don't remember what rank I was when I finished. It might have been about 180. I'm going to say about 180 was when I quit. And this was on the PC version. I did HR break on the PS4 version. Got to maybe... What would it have been? I think I got over 100, maybe? But on the high rank version, I think it was about 180. And it felt about the same as this game. But I could be wrong. He could be talking about Master Rank, right? He could be talking about how easy it is with, like, maybe the really difficult Master Rank quests, how easy you can get up the ranks, I don't know. I'm only attempting to understand, as a person who not only doesn't understand, but has no desire to understand, because I won't play those games. which doesn't sit well with many people. Some people can't really understand why I can't enjoy World. They'll meet me halfway on Rise, but with World, people will just sort of raise their hands and step backwards with wide eyes and go, I can't imagine what you've got wrong with that game. Well, I'll tell you what. My issues with it are endless. But that's not to disparage the people who enjoy that game. I hasten to add. Oh no, did not like World at all. So, happy to explain this to people who don't know. I got World when it came out. I played the beta. I played it for the first 2 months of release on PS4. I had actually bought a PlayStation 4 just to play the game, so just to be very clear, I was playing it with the expectation of enjoying it, with the expectation of experiencing Monster Hunter on a new system, and in glorious high definition in a way that I'd never experienced it before. I was open to the fact that it was going to be different, inevitably, because it was on all these new systems, definitely open to a wider audience. Streamlining was inevitable. I knew it wasn't going to be 4th gen, and I tried and tried and tried, and I couldn't enjoy it. Not really. I could enjoy it technically, but what overrode my enjoyment was the fact that it didn't quite achieve the satisfaction that I could get out of these games, or rather the satisfaction that I got in World. It just was not what I got out of these games. It wasn't the same. It didn't scratch the same itch, is what I would say. It felt like a reboot of the series rather than a continuation. It felt like Capcom walked away from a lot of what was important to me. And while I understand that what I've just described almost begs more detail, there's no quick explanation for these things. But basically, I sold my PlayStation 4 and World about 3 months into owning it. And then when the game finally came out on PC, I tried it again because I was like, well, hey, I've had games in the past that I really didn't enjoy when they came out, like namely Dark Souls 2. I hated Dark Souls 2 when it came out. Couldn't have hated it more. But guess what? I was at peace with it. I was able to come to terms with it when I played the PC version. So I thought maybe I could recreate the same thing with the PC version of World. I got the PC version of World, played it through the beginning again. This is all before the release of Iceborne, obviously, by about a year. So on the PS4, I think I played about 200 hours on that. On the PC version, played about 300 hours. By the time I extricated myself from the PC version, I felt as if I was in an abusive relationship. I felt as if what I was doing was trying so desperately to love the game, but I kept on being assaulted by it, in the sense that I didn't enjoy the experience, but I felt like I either should be enjoying it, or that I just needed to be more flexible, or that I needed to find another way to approach it, or whatever. I tried so many ways. I have never in my life tried harder to enjoy a game than Monster Hunter World, but I couldn't. And so when I uninstalled the game on Steam, sometime in 2019, I decided that that was the last time I would ever play that game. And I was certainly not encouraged to play Iceborne when it came out, based on the descriptions that people gave me, like, for example, of the Clutch Claw. And people can say, oh, you know, there were good things about Iceborne and things that weren't so good, but what I would say to them is that you probably enjoyed the base game. I didn't. You know, maybe if I enjoyed the base game, perhaps I wouldn't have an issue with Clutch Claw. Perhaps Clutch Claw, for instance, wouldn't actually make me not want to play the game, but if I didn't enjoy the base game, if the base game and trying to enjoy playing that version of Monster Hunter World felt like an abusive relationship, could you imagine playing Iceborne, with a gimmick like, for example, Clutch Claw. And obviously, the game inevitably throwing itself further into the direction of streamlining Monster Hunter. I wasn't really into it. So, I'm not going to play Wilds, and I do realize that Wilds is likely to be... It's certainly not going to be anything like the first 4 generations of Monster Hunter. I accept that it's not going to be anything like that, but it feels different enough. It feels like a more honest reboot of the series than, say, World. And Rise, I'm not even going to discuss Rise. Rise is not actually worth a single word from me. That's how bad that series is. I can't really speak for Sunbreak, I don't know much about that, but I can speak to the base game of Rise. And that was so pathetic that it's better if I don't say anything if you enjoy the game. Better if you don't hear a word about it from me. But Wilds, I saw the beta gameplay of it, I saw trailers, I saw various things. It seems interesting, for sure. I'm not going to play it though. I'm not going to play it. Unless I'm told by a person that I trust that I'm personally really going to enjoy it. When I say a person that I trust, I mean a person who understands what I value in Monster Hunter. If a person who knows what I value in Monster Hunter tells me personally, hey, you really should give this game a try, maybe at that point I'll try it. But until that time arises, I'm not going to do it. I'm not interested. I get so much enjoyment and so much replayability out of all of the games that came out from 2004 to 2017, including this game, that I have no reason to play Wilds. Not really. I have no reason to, open myself up to the same situation that I was in Monster Hunter World, where I tried so desperately to enjoy it and then felt like I was just missing what I really wanted. The things that I really enjoyed about Monster Hunter, so, yeah. Yeah, on the subject of world maps, Ancient Forest, can we all be in agreement with the fact that the Ancient Forest was a mess? Absolute joke of a map. It just felt like a... I understand perhaps if you really wanted to be felicitous about it, or rather, what's the word? If you wanted to be fair with Capcom, you could say maybe it was meant to be like a wild forest environment, but it felt pretty wild, in the sense that you didn't know where the fuck you were going. Your sense of direction was always really messed up in the Ancient Forest, and I just hated having to navigate it. It was miserable. For a first area, it was a dog's dinner. Really not good. There were elements of it that I liked, elements of it that I disliked, but overall, I thought it was pretty shit. AJ says he cannot think of a worse area in a Monster Hunter game. I genuinely think it's not just the verticality of it either, because I understand that when you introduce that level of verticality, the idea that you've got so many different layers, vertical layers to an area, it's going to become pretty complicated. It's not just that, it's the tracking of monsters, it's just finding your way around. It doesn't feel right. I think maybe it was a bit too ambitious. If it were a little less ambitious, maybe. If they could get a really good forest that maybe had even 2 layers to it. 2 layers, good enough. Maybe start with 2 layers, make it cohesive, make it fun, and then work your way up from there. They did like fucking 4 or 5 layers, something crazy, where you're just constantly ascending to different levels. It was confusing, it was shit, and it didn't help that Rathalos in that game sucked. I hated Rathalos in World. He was miserable. I've never really been that warm to Rathalos, but God, really did not like him in that game. He always came across as a very uncooperative monster. Always flying around, launching fireballs at you from a distance, just, oh God. Not difficult, just annoying. Just annoying. I'm going to do one more hunt. I'll bring a... Oh, Emmanuel is out. Yeah. Yum Yum Disaster in the chat makes a good point. It doesn't feel like it's rewarding to go from one place to another. You just feel like you're lost until you're not, and then once you're not lost, you're almost immediately lost again. So, yeah, navigation was definitely an issue in that location. A bit too ambitious. I think that's where Capcom fell short when it came to the forest. If you're wanting to see the game chat, this is the game chat. It was just manual leaving, basically. Alright, we'll settle for 3 people, that should be fine. What is the quest? It's Silver Rathalos. Doable. Hopefully. Although with 3 people I probably shouldn't have gone paralysis. For me personally, I like to go paralysis or just support in general when I have 3 people to take advantage of the opportunities that I give by going support. In this case, we've got a guy with some sort of moo cannon? I don't even remember what it's called. It starts with moo, as in M-O-O, as in moo. That's his gun. It's not very impressive, whatever it is. So I don't really count him as a damage dealer, but we do have Alice. I'd say I'm going the better direction to get to Area 5. If you've ever gone from Area 6, it's not as bad in this game, admittedly. If you were to do it in Generations 1 or 2, it would be a ridiculous decision. Here in this game, there's a lot of climbing, but you do climbing faster here, obviously, but I think it's still better to do this. It's less stressful. It's an easier pathway forward. I definitely don't need the green colour now. If you can get out of the fucking air. Do us all a favour. Thank you for that. Silver Rathalos, look at him go. Will not get out of the goddamn air. I managed to get white colour at some point. How did I do that? I feel like you've been doing the same combo endlessly for the last minute. Just stop. Drop down on the ground and relax. Or have Kevin do it forcibly. Where's my orange? Hold on. Where's my orange? Tail? It's the fucking body. No. It's the chest. It's very hard to hit the chest. It's very little. Where is the orange colour? So I've tried the wings, the legs. I thought I hit the chest. This is really bad. It's not often that I'm using Insect Glaive and I just can't get a particular colour. At this stage, I've narrowed it down to the chest, but... oh, fuck you, man. Tail is green. Legs are white, wings are white, head is red, chest is orange. The only way I can get orange is the fucking chest. And it's not that easy to get. You can see I'm even attempting to... seriously. Alright, that's it. I'm just going to settle for 2 colours. Oh, I've got the wing in my way, very good. You prick. Give me orange. No. I'll just settle for red. That's the best I can do. This is so bad. Last time I used a goddamn insect glaive on you. I'd like to get some paralysis going with you. Hello, Agar Batman. Welcome to the live stream. This could be my opportunity to get orange, but I'd rather at this stage focus on dealing damage because I feel like I haven't done enough of that up until this point. I've spent way too much time trying to get a colour that is just impractical to acquire. I'm assuming he's going this way. I hope so. I just think, coincidentally, I haven't really used Insect Glaive on this monster. Not really. I tend to fluke it. I just haven't been lucky in fluking it. Like, for example, I fluked getting red just there. I just randomly shot my insect into him and got red, so... Sometimes I can fluke it and get orange. That just hasn't happened this time. I've tried to get it, and then tried to fluke it as well, and it just has not happened. There's our paralysis. Alright, come on. This is my chance to fucking get it. Chest. Motherfucker. Give it to me. There you go. Motherfucker. As I said. That's what you are. You are an irritant. I've got Extract Hunter now. Never has Extract Hunter been so welcome. Honestly. Neck, you think? Not the chest, but the neck? It's no less annoying. I think you've gone to the Area 9? Yep. It probably was the neck, you're probably right. Still annoying. Could you imagine? Because if you're aiming for the neck, you're probably going to hit the head accidentally. Or hit the chest. Get over here. If you're leaving the area already... No. What a dick. That is such a first gen move. If anyone has ever fought Silver Rathalos in first gen, I don't know what it is. I would say that any Rathalos is a problem in first gen, but probably the worst fight that I've ever had with a Silver Rathalos was in Monster Hunter Freedom 1. Or the worst fight that I've ever had with any flying monster that can change areas was with a Silver Rathalos in Freedom 1, where he spent the first 30 minutes of the fight, during which we probably had a total of 60 to 120 seconds to hit the monster, where he just changed locations. It was 30 minutes of it. I could not believe it. It was absolutely breathtaking to see a monster go from one location to another so many times, so consistently, and with no sign of letting up. It just happened endlessly. So, I don't know, it could have been a Silver Rathalos problem, it could have been just bad luck. Something that couldn't possibly happen in this game, obviously, but something that can possibly happen in a first-gen game. But my god, it was bad. And I've never forgotten that. Worst quest I've ever done. It was life-changing, actually. You know when you've played first-generation Monster Hunter, and you think you've reached the absolute peak, the absolute zenith of how angry and almost out of your mind you can become? I reached a new level with that quest. That quest was fucked up. That was like doing... I don't know. That was like transporting powder stones in the volcano without transporter. 3 of them. It was like that quest. That was the level of anger. I'll stop it. No! Don't combo me, that's gonna kill me. You prick. That's the classic. That's the classic fucking attack. The poison claw with the guaranteed KO. Prick. Oh my god. And that was after I got my triple colours as well. He was too busy doing his combos. That's what I hate about Silver Athlos. What he does is he gets up into the air and he does his combos. He's like... I don't even know how to describe it. He gets in like this flow. Like he's in a dance. And his dance has absolutely nothing to do with giving us opportunities to hit him. All he does is just fly around. He just sort of wiggles around in the air. Shoots off fireballs, does claw attacks, and it just goes on and on and on. Fuck this monster. Fuck this monster. Apparently the claw attack deals dragon damage. Even in this generation? I can imagine them applying dragon damage to an earlier version, but... I can believe that, though. Oh, I've got to sleep. I keep forgetting to give myself bombs. Neck. Hey, there we go. Oh, so good. What? Red on the legs? Red on the legs! You've got to be shitting me. Red on the legs. Can I make a formal complaint? Red on the legs. Although I had Extract Hunter, so I didn't really need to do that, but seriously. Red on the legs. The principle that Epidemic previously outlined rings true. Any part of the monster that is used for attacking is red, therefore legs. I understand it, but it doesn't mean that I agree with it. Fucking hell. I was also not expecting the knockdown to be that quick. Obviously it was because of the exhaustion. Is your head broken already? Yes, it is. Can you die now, please? I severely regret using a paralysis insect glaive. I really should have gone for damage. I will admit that the main reason why I did it was because I checked the monster and I had no idea what it was, so I just used a general use insect glaive. But I really should have just gone back and changed when I saw that there were 3 people, but that's alright. It wasn't terrible in the end. We survived. Glad I carved, got a ruby. That is not just the conclusion of this hunt, that is largely the conclusion of this live stream. 2 rubies and a mantle, can't complain about that. I have no use for any of those things, but hey, I can still derive some satisfaction from it. That's it. I do hope you all enjoyed. That was a 3-hour-long live stream. If that's not good enough for you, nothing will be good enough for you. Genuinely, though, thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time I'm recording Monster Hunter. It will be Generations Ultimate next time. Just a spoiler. But I'll see you then. Bye-bye for now.